country by another country leads to change in social, cultural, economic and political sphere. It leads to colonization. It leads to colonization. And how do we know administration? How do we know administration? One important source is the official records of the British administration. So, how can we come to know how the British people administer India? So, they made each and everything as a record. The British people made each and everything as a record. So, that is the source for us to study the history. And the British felt all important documents and letters needed to be preserved. So, they protected all the records in a separate room. Specialized institutions like archives and museums were established to preserve important records. So, archives in the sense it is a place where all the histories and documents, literacy books, everything will be stored. And museums were established to preserve important documents. So, these are the sources that we can study the history. And sources of information: official records, letters, memos, surveys, newspapers, magazines, autobiographies, reports, experiences of travelers, novels and poems are some important sources of information of British rule and atrocities. So, the British people preserved each and every documents and letters during their administration. So, by reading that sources, letters and literacy books, we can understand the British rule and their atrocities. And the practice of surveying became common under colonial administration. The practice of survey. What is survey? It is like census. They count the population of a country, right? So the same way they took surveys on each and everything. So what are the surveys? On what they took survey? They took surveys like botanical, zoological, archaeological, anthropological and forest surveys were in the list of British administration. So botanical and zoological comes under the surveys on animals and plants. Archaeological means the past histories, and anthropological and forest surveys about the forests were in the list of British administration. So they took surveys on all these things. That's all about the first chapter, children. In this chapter we saw about the sources, records during the administration of the British people. Then they divided the Indian history into three: Hindu, Muslim and British. So that's all about your first chapter. Now let us revise some of your objective type question and answers. Okay, your first one is objective type question. It was suggested in the 1922 advertisement of Lipton tea that anyone who drank it was dash. So they gave an advertisement during 1922. So the advertisement told that if a man drink Lipton tea, so he is considered as a dash. He is considered as a royal, rich. So that is the answer. It was suggested in 1922 advertisement of Lipton tea that anyone who drank it was royal. And maps produced during the early British rule in India depicted Britain as a power that was dominant. So British was a dominant power. They dominated other rulers. So the maps produced during the early British rule in India depicted Britain as a power that was dominant. And your third one is, which of the following is a specialized institution for the preservation of records? Answer is museum. So we can see all the records in a museum. A museum will preserve all the records. And what were political and commercial agents serving the English East India Company and furthering its interests called? So residents. So the British during the British rule, our Indian kings will be having residence in their courts. The British people is considered as residents in the Indian court. Okay, children. The next one, short answer type questions. What is meant by the term colonialism? What is meant by the term colonialism? When a country occupies another country, takes up its sovereign status and directs its politics, society and economy, then this process is known as colonization. So what is colonialism? It means a country occupies another country, like British occupies Indian country and takes up its society and economy. So they took over all the politics, social and economic things of another country. That is called as colonialism. The next one, do you know the reason behind the use of dates in history? The use of dates in history is a must because when we read about a particular phase or period in the form of a story, the dates provide a framework to present the story in sequence. So, history consists of more and more dates and years to remember. For what? In order to sequence the story. Yes? If we know the date only, we can make the story in an order. And the main objective of dates is that they help to create a sensible story and a proper timeline of events and incidents. So, we can prepare the timeline if we know the dates of each and every thing that had been happened. So, this is why the dates are very important in our history. The next, the third one. How did the invention of the printing press help in spreading news and information? Answer is, the invention of the printing press was a blessing. An earlier document or material was written by hand through experts or individuals. The old manual process was time consuming and lengthy. So why printing press was invented? It was invented in order to make several copies of a document. So if we write in hand, what will happen? It will be time consuming and lengthy process. And when the printing press arrived, the speed of work improved. After the printing press, the speed was increased while printing a document. The newspapers were published and issued were debated in public, and the leaders and reformers were able to spread their ideas easily. So after the invention of printing press, everybody can express their ideas easily to all the people. Poets and novelists could also express their feelings with great speed. So poets and novelists will write their expression and it will be spreaded easily to all the people all over the world. So this is the blessing in which printing press was invented. The next one, answer in detail. What sources do historians use in writing modern Indian history? What sources do historians use in writing modern Indian history? Historians use various records, governmental and non-governmental documents to write modern Indian history. And official records of the British administration are also widely used in writing history. So, the official records of the British people were also used as a source to write the history. The British set up a record room attached to all the administrative institutions. So, to preserve all the important documents, memos and letters, the British people set up a separate room in all the government offices. The village tahsildar's office, the collectorate and the commissioner office had numerous amounts of written records. So in the village tahsildar office, collector office and commissioner office consist of a separate room called the record room. And letters and memos can still be found in the archives and one can use it as a genuine source for writing history. Still, these records are preserved in an archive and we can use it to write a history. Reports of the district officials form an integral part of the sources available to modern historians for writing of histories. Survey records also form an important source for modern historians, and however a government record omits many issues and one needs to consult non-governmental records too. So there may be some changes in the government records and we can use the non-governmental records also to write a history. So this is what sources do. In which sources we are from which source we are using to write a history. Yes, children. The next second question is, why did the practice of surveying become important under the British? Why did British people took surveys? The British were of the belief that before administering a country, it is important to know it properly. So, if we are moving to a place, we should properly understand about the place, right? So, the same way, the British people, in order to administer our country in a very good manner, they used to take surveys on each and everything. And by the early 19th century, the British conducted detailed surveys to map the entire country. So, revenue survey administer. So in order to administer our country and capture our country, in order to know it very well, they took surveys on these much of things. Understood? The next one, that's all about your first chapter. Now we are moving to your second chapter, children. From trade to territory. From trade to territory. What is meant by that? From trade to territory in the sense, the British people came to India for what purpose? They came as a traders. Later on, how they captured India and how they implemented their power in India. So that is what we are going to see in this lesson. The last powerful Mughal ruler was Aurangzeb. Aurangzeb was the last powerful Mughal ruler. And after his death in 1707, many Mughal governors and big zamindars began asserting their authority and establishing regional kingdoms. So after the death of this king Aurangzeb, many Mughal rulers and zamindars took their regions and established their kingdoms. And by the second half of the 18th century, a new power emerged on the political horizon. So during the 18th century, a new political power came to India and implemented their political power. And East India Company begins trade in Bengal. So the East India Company from Europe came to India and started trading in Bengal. In 1651, the first English factory was set up. During 1651, the first English factory was set up. It was the base from which the company's traders, known as factors, operated. In the warehouse of the factory, warehouse in the sense they will store all the goods to export to their country, and goods for export were stored. The company by 1696 built a fort around the settlement. So later on, they built a factory. Later on, after many settlements came as a traders to India, they started fortifying in Bengal. So what is fortifying? They built a high wall, and the company continuously tried to press for more concession and manipulate existing privileges. So this Aurangzeb, he gave a farman to the East India Company. Farman in the sense agreement. He gave an agreement that they can trade in Bengal for free, duty free. There was no tax to trade in Bengal. So later on, what happened after the death of Aurangzeb, the English East India Company wanted more privileges in order to trade all over India for free. Okay. The next one, the conflict between the company and the nawabs of Bengal intensified. So there was a conflict between the nawabs and the East India Company. The Bengal nawabs refused to grant the company concessions, demanded large tributes for the company's right to trade, denied it any right to mint coins, and stopped it from extending its fortification. So the English East India Company started fortifying in Bengal, and the nawabs don't want them to fortify and capture the regions. So there was a conflict. And the Battle of Plassey. Plassey is a place. In 1756, Ali Khan died and Siraj Dawla became the Nawab of Bengal. So in the year 1756, Ali Khan was the king of Bengal. So after his death, his successor was Siraj Dawla. Siraj Dawla came to the throne of Bengal, and the company tried to help one of the Siraj Dawla's rivals to become the Nawab. So the British wanted to kill this Siraj Dawla because there was a conflict between them that the English East India Company must pay the tax to Bengal for trade. And these the English East India Company do not want to pay the tax. And one of the Siraj Dawla's rivals, the military commander, they bribed the military commander of Siraj Dawla that the English East India Company could make him as a king after the death of Siraj Dawla. So the name of that military commander was Mir Jafar. After Siraj Dawla came to know about the company's strategy, he asked them to stop meddling in their political affairs, stop fortification, and pay the revenues. In 1757, Robert Clive led the company's army against Siraj Dawla at Plassey. So Plassey is a place in the conflict. In the conflict between the Nawabs and East India Company, Robert Clive led the Sirajuddaula. This Mir Jafar, he helped the British people and he killed Sirajuddaula. The Battle of Plassey became famous because it was the first major victory the company won in India. Thus, Sirajuddaula was defeated and it was a big victory to the English East India Company. Then, the doctrine of lapse. It was a law introduced by Lord Hastings. So, what is that? Under Lord Hastings, who was the Governor General from 1848 to 1856, the final wave of annexation occurred. The doctrine of lapse is a policy devised by him which declared that if an Indian ruler died without a male heir, his kingdom would lapse and thus become part of the company's territory. So, while introducing this doctrine of lapse, so if a king does not have a male son, if a king does not have a male son, after his death, the kingdom will move on. The kingdom will be captured by the English East India Company. So this was the doctrine of lapse. And next one, conclusion. The East India Company was transformed from a trading company to a territorial colonial power. So thus they came to India as traders and established their power and captured many territories of India. In the early 19th century, new steam technology arrived. By 1857, the company came to exercise direct rule over 63% of the territory. So the company captured 63% of the territory in India and they ruled 78% of the population. They ruled 63% of the territory, that is regions, and 78% of the population in India. Yes children, that's all about your second chapter. Now we are moving to the revision part of your second chapter, the question and answers. Objective type questions. First one, as Governor General, what was Robert Clive asked to remove from the company's administration? So even then there was corruption in English territory, the British rule. So Robert Clive wanted to remove corruption. And who became the Governor General of Bengal in 1764? So Robert Clive became the Governor General of Bengal in the year 1764. In the early 18th century, the right to mint coins and extend fortification was denied to the British officers by the nawabs of Bengal. By 18th century, the right to mint coins and extend fortification was denied to the British officers by nawabs of Bengal. And the annexation of which Indian state led its people to revolt against the British in 1857 CE? The annexation of Awar. It is a place. The annexation of Awar was led its people to revolt against the British in 1857 CE. Yes, the next one. Answer the following. Your first question is, who are calligraphers? policy, British people have the power to threaten or capture any region, and this view continued to guide later British policies as well. Then that's all about your second chapter, children. Now we are moving to your third chapter, ruling the countryside. So after capturing many territories, how the British people ruled India? What are the policies that were invented by the British people? So the company became the Diwan. The East India Company became the Diwan of Bengal on 12 August 1765. As Diwan, the company became the chief financial administrators. Diwan means what? The company became the chief financial administrator of the territory under its control. The company needed to administer the land and organize its revenue resources. Revenue means tax. The company needed to administer the land and organize its revenue resources. It needed to be done in a way that could yield enough revenue to meet the growing expenses of the company. So as they become the Diwans, the chief financial officers, they wanted to gain more tax from the Indians in order to meet the expenses that are served by that needed to be exported to their company. They must buy goods to export to their country. So to buy goods they need money. For that they invented the taxing systems. Then revenue for the company. Yes, revenue for the company means how the company got the revenue. Revenue means tax. How they use the tax that are collected from India. So the company's aim was to increase the revenue to buy fine cotton and silk cloth as cheaply as possible. So from India they exported cotton cloths very cheaply, but they sold it in their country for high prices. So the company wanted to increase the revenue, increase the tax in order to buy more fine cotton cloths. And within a span of 5 years, the value of goods bought by the company in Bengal doubled. So while they entered India as traders, they got only little amount of goods to export to their country. So later on, after collecting all the taxes of India, they doubled the export goods to their country. The next one, a new system was devised. So in order to collect the tax, a new system was introduced. The company's officials decided to change the system of revenue. They wanted to change the system of collecting taxes, and Holt Mackenzie devised a new system which came into effect in 1822. Holt Mackenzie, he is also an officer of English East India Company. He devised a new system which came into effect in the year 1822. Under his directions, collectors went from village to village. Inspecting the land. They are inspecting the land means they are measuring the land and recording the customs and rights of different groups. Recording the items, the customs and rights of each group. And the estimated revenue of each plot within a village was added up to calculate the revenue at the each village. So according to their level of land, they must pay the tax. This was introduced by Holt Mackenzie, and this demand was to be revised periodically. So after some of the years, this revenues must be changed, not permanently fixed. So this revenue system is not permanently fixed. It must be changed periodically, and the charge of collecting the revenue and paying it to the company was given to the village headman. So the work of this collecting revenue was given to the village headman. He must collect all the tax from their village, and rather than the zamindar. This system came to be known as the Mahalwari system. So this system came to be known as the Mahalwari system. Mahal in the sense land, and Wari means tax. The Munro system. Next one is the Munro system. Thomas Munro introduced another system. This settlement had to be made directly with the cultivators. Riots means cultivators. The settlements had to be made in which we can extract blue color dye. So this plant was exported to Europe. And the company forced cultivators in various parts of India to produce other crops: jute in Bengal, tea in Assam, sugarcane in the United Provinces, that is Uttar Pradesh, wheat in Bengal, wheat in Punjab, cotton in Maharashtra and Punjab, rice in Madras. And the rich blue color was produced from a plant called indigo. A rich blue color was extracted from a plant called indigo. The blue dye used in the Morris prints in 19th century Britain was manufactured from indigo plants cultivated in India. So in your book you can see two colored cloths, cotton cloths, which was printed by the British people. And India was the biggest supplier of indigo in the world at that time. So during this time, during 19th century, India was the big cultivators of this indigo plant. And why the demand for Indian indigo? Why there was a demand for the Indian indigo? Indigo plants grow in the tropics, and Indian indigo was used by cloth manufacturers in Italy. Tropics means the regions which are very hot. The high temperature regions are called tropical region, and this region can grow indigo. And this indigo was used by cloth manufacturers in Italy, France and Britain. So this color, this dye was used by the people of Italy, France and Britain to dye their cloth, to color their cloth. And small amounts of Indian indigo reached the European market and its price was very high. So only a little amount of the plant was exported to Europe, and its price was very high. Therefore, European cloth manufacturers had to depend on another plant called board. So, because there was only a little amount of export to Europe, the indigo plant was a little amount exported, and they must search an alternative. So that alternative was this board plant, which gives violet and blue dyes. So from this board plant, we can extract violet and blue dyes. And indigo produced a rich blue color, whereas the dye from board was pale and dull. So the indigo plant, which is cultivated in India, gives a rich blue color. But this board plant, the alternate plant, does not give that much good color. It was pale and dull. The demand for Indian indigo grew further. So again there was a demand for the Indian indigo. And Britain turns to India again. The British people turned towards India. In Europe, the demand for indigo was high. So the company in India looked for ways to expand the area under indigo cultivation. The company officials were attracted by the prospect of high profits and came to India to become indigo planters again. In order to cultivate indigo, the British people came to India. Thus the Blue Rebellion started. The Blue Rebellion and after, because of the Commission of British. That's all about your third chapter, children. Now let us discuss the question and answers. Objective type questions about what percentage of the population in Bengal perished due to the 1770 famine. It was about 33% of population. And why was it felt that zamindars would benefit under the permanent settlement system? Because revenue demands from state always remained fixed. So there was a fixed settlement, permanent settlement. And which British official implemented the periodise system on a large scale in India? Thomas Munro. Thomas Munro only implemented the periodise system. Which European country did not import indigo from India? Germany. Germany did not import indigo from India. And before India, which region produced indigo for the British? So before India, Jamaica only cultivated indigo plant. Next we are moving to answer the following. Your first question is what is Subsidiary Alliance? What is Subsidiary Alliance? Subsidiary Alliance was a policy endorsed by the British East India Company. According to this, Indian rulers were not allowed to have their independent armed forces. So according to this Subsidiary Alliance, the Indian rulers may not have their own military power but had to pay for the subsidiary forces that the company could maintain for the purpose of their protection. So in order to protect the king, the military force was given by the British people and they have to pay for them. So this was the Subsidiary Alliance. And second question, define the following terms: famine and indigo. Define famine and define indigo. What is famine? Famine is a widespread scarcity of food. Famine means what? Scarcity of food and caused by several factors including crop failure. If the crop failure, famine will occur. If the population unbalanced, if the population was high and there is only a little land to cultivate, famine will occur. Or if the land is more and the population is low, there will be a famine. So this was the population unbalance or government policy. So because of the ruler who give a different rule, famine will occur. So what is famine? It is the scarcity of food which is occurred because of crop failure, population unbalance and government policies. And second one, define indigo. It is a deep blue colored natural dye derived from the indigo plant. So it is a dye extracted from indigo plant and only available in some parts of the world. It is only available in some parts of the world. Its cheaper alternative is called the wood plant, which was widely used in factories in England. The next one, what does slave mean and where did the slave revolt take place in 1791? What does slave mean? What is slave? The person who are deprived of personal freedom and are compelled to work day and night are known as slaves. So what is a slave? Slave in the sense the persons who are deprived of personal freedom, those who have no freedom and are compelled to work day and night are known as slaves and are forced to work day and night are called as slaves. In the French colony of Saint-Domingue, situated in the Caribbean island, the African slaves who worked in plantations rebelled in 1791. And your fourth question is describe the types of indigo cultivation in India. Describe the types of indigo cultivation. So first one is niche and second one is peyote. First one is niche and second one is peyote. What is niche? In this category of plantation, the planters produce indigo in the land they directly control. So the niche cultivation in the sense the person, those who have their own land cultivating indigo is called as niche. And second one is peyote. Peyote means in this category of plantation, the planters force the riots to sign contracts in lieu of providing them loans at low interest rate. So what is peyote? In this people. The next second one, why did the British set up record rooms attached to all administrative institutions? The British set up record rooms to preserve all the important documents and letters. The record rooms were attached to all the administrative institutions, and all the administrative officers, the village tahsildar's office, the collectorate office and the commissioner's office, the provincial secretaries and the law courts had record rooms attached to their offices. So these are some of the offices which have the record rooms in order to preserve all the documents and letters which are important. The British also set up specialized institutions like auctions and museums to preserve the records. So even now we can go and see the records which were preserved by the British people in museums and archives. Yes children, I hope you would have understand all the lessons and their question and answers. Now this is time for your math. So the yellow colored regions are ruled by the British people, and the red color is princely states, the states which could not captured by the British people. So here you can understand all the yellow color states were captured by the British people. They only ruled all the yellow regions. So you can see Odisha, Madras, central provinces, Tripura, Bengal, Bihar, United Provinces means Uttar Pradesh, Punjab. So Balochistan, half of Balochistan, Sindh. So these are some of the places which were ruled by the